Yeah. Well, that's hard. And again, I think it is marketing and it's body types have been really trendy. So I'm running a thing right now called the 28-day Love Your Body Challenge
Hmm.
on my website, which is mollygalbraith.com. It's self-guided. You can start at any time. We're on day 9. But essentially what I do is I talk a little bit. Kicked it off with a bunch of like really kind of popular women in the fitness industry showing pictures of their flaws, whether it was cellulite, stretch marks, whatever they feel like, belly rolls, whatever they felt like they've been uncomfortable with in the past. I said, look, this is a picture of them looking really fit. And this is cellulite all over their butt or the backs of the legs or whatever. And a couple of really kind of poignant things happened. Probably first and foremost is that when the women went to take pictures, I emailed about 30 something women, and when they wrote back and said, yeah, I've got cellulite, I'll do it, and they went to take pictures, and all week before I was putting the post up, they kept sending me pictures. Is this bad enough? Does my cellulite look bad enough in this? And I'm like, I mean, well, no, actually not really. Take another, take it. I'm like, get worse lighting. And so they're trying to take these pictures. Does this look bad enough? And it was really funny because when they stepped back to look at themselves through the eyes of the way that my reader was going to look at themselves, they could hardly find a flaw.
Yeah.
They were like breaking themselves down so much. Oh, my ass looks so disgusting in this. And then when they go to take a picture and they're like, what are other people going to think? Does this look bad enough for me to be self-conscious about it? The answer was no for the most part. And a lot of women actually commented, I don't see their flaws in these pictures. I don't see their flaws. And I'm like, okay, that brings me to my next point. Have you thought, like, maybe, just maybe, these women are being really hard on themselves, and maybe you're being really hard on yourself too? Maybe
Right.
there's no reason at all to be as hard on yourself as you are. And so those were two kind of things that really stuck out. But in another post I talk about the bodies through the ages. Like I think in like the 1500s, the really full, actually overweight body type was what was popular because it
Sure.
proved that you could bear healthy children and and you were probably wealthy. And then we go into the kind of the flappers of the 20s who were really, really kind of boyish. And before that, there was the really tiny waist. Women were trying to get their waist to 16 inches. Sorry, I've got
Right.
a train. I've got a train going by. I hope you can hear me. And then the flapper look, and then there was the curvy look, and then there was the kind of Cindy Crawford, and then Pamela Anderson, and all these different body types. The waif look, the Kate Moss, but it's all marketing. Someone's always trying to sell you something,
Yeah.
and so if they can make you feel like there's for some reason that you're not good enough, or that your body's not the right body type, or that you need what they're selling, then they're going to do that. And the reason that women like models, runway models and stuff, are so thin is because literally they are supposed to look like hangers for the clothing. So they don't, if a woman's really beautiful and she's walking down, like really stunning, beautiful, walking down the runway, has this amazing, kind of voluptuous body, you're probably not going to be looking at the clothing nearly as much as you're going to be looking at her. So I'm not kidding. In general,
Yeah.
they try to make runway models as thin and kind of rail-like and hanger-like as possible, and generally as plain in the face. And of course, I think they're still beautiful, but as plain as they can, so that you're focusing on the clothing and not them. And it's just media. It's mainstream media, and now you have social media. And I talk about on social media how everyone's comparing their behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
Right.
And that was kind of a reason that I wanted to show those pictures on Facebook, was because we post pictures of ourselves looking amazing all the time. I'm not going to post a picture where you can see cellulite on the backs of my legs or rolls on my belly, because as a fitness professional, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you
Right.
only show these perfect airbrushed pictures, then everyone's going to think you're fake. But then you show a picture of your cellulite, and it's like, well, how can I listen to you about fat loss? You have cellulite.
Yeah.
And so but yeah, I mean, your wife, it's just probably, I don't know how old she is, but it's probably for the last 25 years, she's been told that thinner is better,
Yeah.
and as a guy, you're attracted to probably something a little bit more kind of voluptuous looking, because that in your evolution, you're thinking, bearing healthy children, curves, that's kind of what guys generally like a little bit more. So,
Sure. Sure. It's funny that I'm talking to you about this right now, because I have this baby girl. It's my first daughter, and I can't help but think about how to foster her emotionally, and how to foster her self-worth and her independence. And that's so valuable. And these days, with the direction we see with digital media, it's just really challenging because we see so much of this that you're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
how much of this do you think is really related to digital media? Because we see studies where, people had no television, no radio, no magazines, and
Hmm.
everybody's happy and fine. And they bring
Yeah.
in Western culture, and within a few years, they're stabbing each other for the basketball that the other
Yeah.
guy caught. So I mean,
Yeah,
how
and
much
they're
of this do you
depressed,
think is
they're
media?
anxious. Yeah, they're depressed and they're anxious. They've got all these problems. So it's funny that you say that because my sister lives in New Zealand. So my niece has been raised over there, and it's not like in New Zealand they don't have those things, but in their home they don't have those things.
Sure.
They've chosen to not have television. They've chosen to not have movies. They've chosen to not have magazines around. And my niece has literally no concept of anything other than healthy. And so my sister actually carries quite a bit of weight. She has her whole life, carried lots of extra body fat. And my niece, again, she knows healthy, but she doesn't think of fat as like a bad thing. So she'll
Right.
she'll go up to my sister and she'll jiggle her stomach and she's like, "I love your wobbly bits, mama," and like it's like it's the sweetest thing. But to her, she doesn't. That's not a this fat is
There's no
not.
negative connotation
Exactly.
surrounding
My
it, right?
sister's not a lesser person. She doesn't think anything badly of her because she carries belly fat. And they talk a lot about, like I said, healthy foods and not healthy foods. My niece is actually a boss. If you ask her what makes you healthy, she says squats, sleep, steak, and vegetables. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. She needs to do a freaking seminar. Squats, sleep, steak, and vegetables. That's what makes you healthy. She's 5 years old. That's like, it's like so many people overcomplicate things. If you just did squats, ate steak, got your sleep, and ate your vegetables, you'd probably be more legit than half the people on the internet. But
Oh my God, that's so simple. Squat, sleep, steak, and vegetables. Yeah, I
vegetables.
like about that too. In New Zealand, all the steak is grass fed. You got to pay a premium for the corn fed steak.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Everything. I said something about grass-fed steak, and my sister-in-law was like, "What do you mean? And that's
What's
just steak. That's expensive
that?
steak here." Yeah. But so she doesn't know anything. So she knows healthy, and she knows, like they don't call any food bad. They just say like these are foods these are sometimes foods. We eat these sometimes because they don't make us healthy and they maybe don't make us feel as good. And one time she screamed, "I want sometimes foods all the time," and we're like, "Don't we all, Ella? Don't we all?" I want cake and ice cream and yeah, and
Sometimes foods all the time.
all
I
done. Yeah.
like
So
that.
so it is. It's kind of my own little personal experiment that I get to watch. Again, no magazines, no mainstream media. She doesn't know anything about fat. Where I used to nanny for a family and. The 4-year-old came home from the pool one day and she said, "Molly, am I fat?" One of the girls at the pool said that I was fat. She was 4, maybe almost 5. And that's heartbreaking,
Yeah.
a 4 to 5-year-old thinking that. And my nephew too, he's 6, and he says things like that. He said, "I don't like this haircut, it makes my face look fat." And they're hearing these things and there's a negative connotation with them. And of course we shouldn't ever teach children that being morbidly obese is fine or healthy by any means, but I don't think that they should have this kind of shame associated with it. I think that's what it comes down to. A child would look at their mom who's fat and be embarrassed. Where my niece looks at my sister and she's like, "I love your wobbly bits,"
Yeah. Yeah.
she's, because there's no shame associated with it.
Yeah.
So, and with your daughter, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a tough task because she's going to be growing up, with so much of that stuff from her friends. As much as you shelter her too, she'll probably
Well,
still get some
we're
more friends.
considering rather alternative paths at this point of
Yes,
education.
homeschool, homeschool.
No, I don't think either my wife or I have the grit to do homeschool, but they're, Waldorf, Montessori educations, things like that.
I'm a Montessori kid.
Are you a Montessori kid?
I was.
Okay.
I only got to go through first grade. Both my sisters went through fifth and sixth, but just because at one point it cost more than college tuition.
Yeah, it
My
was like
parents were
$50,000 a year to
yeah,
send your kids to
yeah,
school.
but I grew up, and then of course because we had done that, and because my parents were the type of parents who would send us to Montessori, that was kind of the stuff that we got at home. But yeah, it's awesome. I'm a big Montessori fan. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we need some educational reform in this country. That's for sure. So one of the interesting things was I just got off a coaching call before we got on the Skype call, and my client was like, it's just really hard. Like, I've only lost 10 pounds in the last 6 weeks, and this is after losing like 15 pounds in like the first,
Right.
4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? Like, as long as you fall within like a 1 to 2 pound per week guideline and
Hmm.
expect 1 to 2 plateaus that last maybe 2 or 3 months per year, like
Mm.
I'm pretty happy with that. And you need
Yeah,
to be too. Like we need to
I'm
reframe your
okay with that.
mind. You know, like
Mhm.
so like now that we've talked about so much of this negative mindset and like people maybe not getting their expectations fulfilled, how do we spin that around? How do we create a positive association with exercise and with nutrition? And how can people empower themselves so they don't have this negative connotation associated with where they're at and who they're trying to relate
Mm.
themselves with?